the little teacher boy touching on my nephew, stirring up the dragon in my head. Blood bubbling like a boy might have full. Whole of ears or at least get a page from the dread. Tired of the perverts, loose in the classroom, set on destruction of innocence.
A lot of Jamaican artists, they have this thing where they're burning out this and burning out this and this, as if it's the #1 social problem on the island. The big social problem is molestation, rape, and
exactly, pedophilia. Yeah.
Pedophilia, right? Why aren't more people speaking about that? Because that really destroys their lives. A lot of women, it's hard for them to bounce back from rape. You know, with
men and women. And we neglect to recognize the impact that pedophilia has even in some of these communities that, you know, people feel like they're being persecuted. A lot of the time when young boys are affected very early by this monstrosity, like they grow up very confused. Trace a lot of the situations of, you know, people growing up and having all kinds of quirks and all kinds of, you know, misperceptions about themselves. A lot of it has started from that, and it's not strangers who are perpetrating these things against them. It's sometimes family or a teacher or a preacher or a priest, you know, and we don't talk about it because usually it's people who are in positions of power who get to perpetrate this kind of violence against children. And, you know, it's not just the inner city woman who gives her daughter to a Don man. Sometimes it's the high society woman who allows her daughter to be left alone with some other men who are disgusting cretins, and they will take advantage. I know I've heard stories of my sisters who are from high society families who our mother leave her with high society people, and they spend the whole weekend torturing this little girl, and she never tells anyone about it because of the shame attached to it. And I think that idea of shame, we have to tackle it, we have to talk about it, we have to bring these issues into the front and say, look, talk about it, say something. You hear that song? What does it bring up? We need to have open discussions where women feel secure to say, look, I was violated, I'm not a victim, but this man is a monster, and we need to bring these people out. And it's not that we're saying kill these people, you know, but you need to understand who these people are, because it is mental illness that causes people to do these kinds of things. And as much as they won't put it in the in the DSM, it is a serious illness. You know, pedophilia is a mental disease. Right? And there are cultures that practice this, and it doesn't make it right. You know, there's a whole segment of high society that is perpetrating this pedophilia thing like it's a style, and you have the little girls and them dressed up and them made up faces and putting them in these sexual, and I'm like, listen, it's not that you are sexualizing your child so much as it is that these predators are lurking, waiting for an opportunity to pounce on your little boys and girls. So you have to be wary, you have to be mindful, you know, and we have to have spaces where if we identify these people in the community, we take them out, and we either going to get help for them or we're going to put them out of the community. Right? Because pedophilia is has one of the highest rates of recidivism. That means that people who do this are going to do it again without a doubt. So I'm not telling you how to deal with them, but I'm telling you, protect your children from them. Make sure that your children are aware that they need to tell you, make them feel comfortable talking to you about anything. If you introduce new people into the household or into their lives, make sure you tell them anything happened, you tell me, ask them if everything all right. Make sure they feel comfortable talking to you. Yes, because shame is a terrible, terrible thing. And a lot of times people go through these things and they don't talk about it. So I had to put some light on that song. And I mean, there was a lot of concern with, oh, maybe it's misunderstood and maybe some people think you're, like, no, there is no misunderstanding this issue.
I think the uniqueness is that you mentioned the women too. Because previous artists have spoken about molestation.
True.
I think Queen Africa had a big song, Daddy.
Yep.
You don't talk about the women that do it.
Yeah.
They cope with touching up the kids.
And it is because a lot of my virgins I know, when they were very young, they lost their virginities to older women. And it is like, oh, you know, but they don't even realize you were raped. You were molested. It does, and it affects how they grow up and how they see women and how they treat women and how the relationship they have with pornography, and you know, and it is just the degradation of our whole infrastructure. We need to be building nation builders. We need our youths to be focused on engineering and entrepreneurship and all of these things, and instead they are so consumed with sex. You know, we are so impatient with each other. And I think for everything that the black woman has gone through, it is not my place or anyone's place to hurry her along in her journey. I think we need to encourage our sisters with loving words and with patient and kind words. And when you compliment your sisters, compliment them on something other than the way they look. Encourage them to read. Instead of taking her out to a meal, maybe take her out to, you know, the library, sit and chill and read a book and have a discussion. Like, we talk about how superficial our sisters are, and we are doing nothing about it because we all love to see big ass women on, you know, and all of that. So instead of being a part of the problem, be a part of the solutions. Like, when I see my sisters and they are completely made up and the false hair and the everything, and the first thing, I want to see them and I want to compliment them on something that is natural about them. I must can find something natural about them, whether it's them actual skin tone or is them eyes or is, wow, you have such a beautiful voice, you know what I mean? And recommend a book or something, or, you know, mention something to them that they've never heard before. Like, engage people. Like, we don't have enough faith in the women, in each other. You know, we need to really have a little more faith in our brothers and sisters and say, yo, I'm not just going to assume that they are lost. I'm not giving them away like that. I'm keeping them as close as possible. And we don't have enough patience, as I said. Like, we really have to exercise some more patience with our brothers and sisters. We are too quick to judge and say, oh, she's right. But remember, say, it took some time for you to reach where you are too. And you still not reach where you need to be, because the journey is everlasting. You know what I mean? And some of these women who are all dolled up, you don't know what kind of trauma they went through and why it is they're covering themselves up in this way with all of these things that are not real. So we really have to start dealing with people on a human level. We are too judgmental. Yes, our slave masters have taught us some terrible things that we keep perpetrating against our sisters. Yes, and we need to start dealing with each other with the love and patience of our African ancestors. Yes, unconditional love. When we start talking about unconditional love, then we can start talking about healing.